The banking industry has long been dominated by men, but in 1976, Karen Barnes entered the field and never looked back. Breaking down multiple barriers, she became the first female ever appointed to the board of directors to the Utah State Bankers Association. She's now breaking down new barriers in the Coachella Valley. We're here with Karen Barnes, who is president, should I say, founder of PW Partners.
That's correct.
And that organization is does consulting work for banks, basically? Was that what you would say?
It is. My husband and I founded this company about 6 years ago, and we specialize in bank director services, board governance, credit training, risk management training,
Right.
Really all the areas in banking right now that seem to have a focus and a need.
So where were you born?
I was born in San Francisco, and I'm actually a third generation San Franciscan.
Okay.
My grandparents were born there and my parents were born there. And I come from a line of also only children. My parents and my grandparents were only children. And so we were a very close-knit family because we didn't have a lot of the extended aunts and uncles and cousins that a lot of people do.
How do you think that affected your childhood growing up?
Oh, I think it was really positive, although it was different because a lot of my friends had several brothers and sisters. I have one, but it made us very close-knit. My grandparents lived right up the street from us in San Francisco. We went on all our family vacations together and spent all holidays together. So I really feel like not only was I very close to my parents and my sister, but very close to my grandparents.
So what were some of your, growing up in high school, college, what were your career aspirations at that point?
Well, first of all, high school I loved. It was probably one of my favorite childhood or growing up periods of time. I really wanted to be a stewardess. That's, back then what we called it, a flight attendant. I had my first experience when I was about 17 flying, and I was terrified.
So that changed that right there.
So it really kind of changed my whole direction on what I wanted to do, and got my first banking job when I was 18, when I graduated from high school. So that was my first exposure into banking, and it obviously just clicked. I actually got this job right directly out of high school.
And what was it, do you think, about banking that clicked with you?
Yeah, I think I had a unique opportunity joining Bank of America. Back then they had a tremendous training program. I don't know what they do now. I haven't been affiliated with them for a long time, but they pretty much, you learned everything about banking within a branch environment, and I loved it. And I seemed to have been really good with numbers, got involved with, a little bit of planning and budgeting and that sort of thing, and it just seemed to click for me. And in addition to the people aspect, you are dealing with customers on a daily basis, so I loved it.
Now, did you find right away, were there many more men than women? Were you one of the few women at that time involved in banking?
Well, I think when I first started in banking, there is a lot of women in banking. At the executive level, there is not a lot of women in banking. And so as my career progressed, I was seeing this more and more. And when I eventually moved to Utah, it just seemed to be prevalent there. I think it wasn't just banking. I think industry-wide, there is just not as many women at the executive level or the president level of just about any industry.
What were the tools you used to sort of stay on that path and kind of get through that resistance?
I was pretty persistent. I was just not going to let that bother me. And then as time went on, I started to get recognized for being involved in the Utah Bankers Association, being chairs of committee, and being actually I was the third woman that was actually elected into the board of directors in 75 years. And so those kind of things got notice.
Sure.
And I was very proud of that. So as time went on, it got a little easier, but certainly persistence and not giving up. A lot of self-talks. Boy, there were days that I would get up and I'd say, what am I doing? Can I do this? I was just pretty determined.
But that leads into my next question. What, in addition to self-talks, what were some of the other things that got you through those tough times, the days when you said, I just can't face this boardroom, these guys, I just can't do
Yeah.
it. What gets you through that?
You know, for me, the one thing that I loved was my team. I just loved working with my team and feeling like together we were going to accomplish a goal. I had great support from them, and I was involved in an acquisition when I became president. They named me president through this acquisition of this bank. I was proud that they felt like I could lead this group, because that's really scary for employees to go through a merger acquisition.
So they need someone at the helm that they feel
Right,
comfortable with,
right.
can trust. and
Right.
that. Do you have a philosophy of life?
A philosophy of life. I think living in the moment.
And what would you say to, there have been people, usually men, who say, well, women are too sensitive, they're too emotional to be executives.
Yeah. I think you have to remember you've got to make some tough decisions. At the end of the day, it's a business. But being a good leader is actually making sure that your team understands that.
What would you say to a young woman who has not found her passion yet, her purpose in life, her career passion? What would you say to someone like that?
Well, I mean, I would probably say to her, if you're considering, getting into to banking, the financial industry, and you're still in school, stay in school. I would say that you focus on, business management or accounting or finance. If you like to work with people, if you like to work with numbers, a lot of especially the larger banks, offer training programs that can help you progress in your career, particularly if you want to get into management.
What are you proudest of in your life?
Well, I have to really say my daughters first. I'm very proud of my family. I think I've instilled in them a really good work ethic, and I think they have grown into wonderful women who have great careers, and I'm most proud that I've been able to have a career and be able to raise a family.
Right. And I remember you told me one of your daughters lives in Australia,
One of
right?
my daughters lives in Australia, and I have 2 grandchildren, and they live in Australia. And my daughter's pursued her career and is raising 2 young children.
That's terrific. Karen Barnes, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much.
It's a pleasure.